They're getting so desperate, they've raised the enlistment age to 42 now. They're waiving bigger and bigger bonuses to try and get people whose term in the Army or the military is up after their 4 years to sign up for another hitch, and you'll get this big $15,000 bonus or so. And if that doesn't work, well, they say they're against a draft, but we've already had one of the people who were scheduled to get out of the military during the Iraq War. There's a little clause in the contract the recruiters will tell you about called stop loss, which says if they decide we still need you in the military after you're supposed to get out, we can keep you in there as long as we want. And the result is that even though in Vietnam, partly because it was a draft, they never sent anybody over to the war zone for more than one tour of duty, lasting a year or so. But in Iraq, some of the troops are now on their third. And some of these troops are ones who signed up for the military reserves thinking they'd only have to be weekend warriors a few times a year and they could pick up some extra cash or some college help or something, and now they're stuck over in Iraq as the divorce rate goes higher and higher and higher. Meanwhile, the military is quietly estimating that as many as 8,000 people have deserted since the war started. I know some of them have been quite visible up in Canada trying to gain asylum, and the last I heard, the one who's gotten the farthest in court keeps losing, which sad to hear that. Another reason to try and get your asylum laws changed. And 1 in 10 eligible Americans don't register for the draft anymore. That gives me hope, in a way. I mean, they know this isn't for fighting terror, liberating anybody. It's just to enrich Bush and Cheney's friends. The United Nations, I can't remember which specific entity in the United Nations this is, some kind of an inspector general, just accused Halliburton of stealing and overcharging for their stuff they're doing over in Iraq, not by the $60 million they've been accused of in the United States, $812 million and counting. 811 wouldn't do. Meanwhile, last year the U.S. Army gave them a $72 million bonus for their excellent work. And we're starting to plant troops in different countries in Africa where they think there's going to be oil. Third largest recipient of our military aid is Colombia, where we say it's all for the drug war, but it's actually training death squads to protect a new pipeline through the Andes for Occidental Petroleum. Indigenous residents be damned. And from time to time, Bush thunders about how we need to overthrow Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. We tried once to stage a coup, and it fell apart by the weekend. At least the Bush mob is incompetent at things like that, or things would be a lot worse, and they'd have their own Pinochet in there now. But Hugo Chavez is exporting revolution. He's exporting revolution. Well, all we give other countries is Abu Ghraib and the WTO and sweatshops. Maybe somebody should be exporting revolution. I mean, Chavez is not exactly coming through clean as a whistle in the way he runs things there. You know, one woman I know who was friends with MDC and the Maximum Rock and Roll people went down there all idealistic about Chavez and came out just hating him, saying that he doesn't know how to keep infrastructure together, poor people are getting poorer, and he's great at bashing Bush, but he can't run a country. We shall see. But meanwhile, Bush has already given up in Iraq. He already said, well, troops are going to be here as long as I'm president. I'm going to let the next president decide what to do. What? He's basically surrendered. And Rumsfeld has said that, well, the troops are going to be there until 2017. 2016 won't matter. I mean, we're going to run out of them by then, so we might have to use you. Who knows? And they're talking about making between 4 and 14 of our military bases we've put up over there permanent, whether the Iraqis want it or not. Plus, no intention of giving up the prime downtown real estate in Baghdad, we seized and put a wall around and named it the Green Zone. Ever seen an aerial photo of the Green Zone? It's much bigger than I thought it was. Before I saw the picture, it's at least the size of downtown Vancouver, maybe quite a bit bigger, because there's a sliver of the Green Zone, prime waterfront real estate, that we swiped as a gift from the new Iraqi government we installed. We've now blown $600 million putting up the largest embassy ever built in the history of the world. 10 times the size of any other embassy to date. Huge complex covering 80 football fields, all these high-rise dormitories and office buildings. It's got its own surface-to-air missile base. Hardly any electricity to be had in Baghdad, so they've got their own supply, their own water supply, swimming pool, spa, you name it, and a wall almost 20 feet thick all the way around the place, just like the golden days of feudalism or whatever. What does it say to the Iraqis, especially when this is the only American project being finished on time? Well, it says this, for one thing, but besides that, what it says to Iraqis and the world is we can talk about troop withdrawal all we want, but the plan is never, ever, ever to leave. So it can be plundered as the world's first privatized colony run totally by free enterprise. I mean, people have